Hello and welcome to this new Android development tutorial. This is part 5 of how to make a calendar application for Android. And right now we will start and we will add some more features to make our calendar app more usable and more useful and better. So right now I'm gonna run the application on the emulator to check if everything is working fine. So here is the current application as it is. We have a calendar view at the top, which in this case shows the current month, the current year, and the current day. If we click on one day, then this bar appears right here, which says hint write something. If we write something like hello 1, and if we click on save, then this disappears and it's saved. If we click again on the day, it appears with its contents. We can do the same for different days. As you can see, hello 19, and if I click 18, hello 1, hello 19. As you can see, we tested that this works even with different months. So let me check right now. Okay, if I go to June 2019 and if I click something like this, then nothing happens. If I click 10, I will say hello June 10, and if I click on save, it will be saved, and as you can see, it still is there. Now if I go back to May and I click May 10th, then nothing is here. So basically, how do we achieve this? Is by using loops and global variables. So the loops we're using to achieve that are these right here. Are the loops for the year, the loops for the month, the loops for the day. And if all of them are coherent in a way, we get the string from our array list, which is called calendar strings, and we display that text to text input. Now, the problem, something useful right here would be if I go to another date, maybe I'm checking something in the future, like in February 2020, and I want to go back to today. So how do I do that? We will add a today button that will take us back to the current day. So to today. So how do we do this? Well, we will open our main activity, our activity main.xml file, and we will create a button. Okay, I will create a button before the calendar view, but you can do it wherever you want. So I'm gonna say button. The width will be much parent, the height will be 40 dp. And the ID of this button will be, the ID will be today button, okay? And as text, we'll have the text, the word today, right? So now let's run it to check that it looks fine. So let's see. So now the app is being compiled. So I will wait for the compilation to finish. And it should finish now. Okay, so now it's being installed. And here we are in the app, and here we have the today button. Of course, it doesn't do anything yet, but we will fix that just now. Okay, so here what we will do is we will go to our main activity.java file, and we will access the button we just created. So how do we do this? Well, we already did this with the save text button, so we have to basically do the same here. So we're gonna say final button today button, and I will set this to find view by ID r.id that today button. Okay, now I want to set this button with a listener, with an on-click listener, in order for us to know when the button is clicked and execute the appropriate code. So to do that, we're gonna say today button that set on click listener new on click listener, and the IDE will generate these couple of lines of code for us. And what we want to do is the following. We want to tell the calendar view that we want to go to today. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, it's pretty simple actually. We can do this in one line of code. We're gonna say calendar view dot set date, and we're gonna say calendar view dot get date. So basically what we're saying here is that please go to today. So we're gonna say set date to calendar view get date. So this get date will get the today's date, and calendar view will focus that date. So now let's check if that even works. Okay, so now I'm compiling, building the APK and sending it to the emulator, and it's running now on the emulator. And so today is May 18. If I click on May 24, then somewhere else, and if I click on today, what it does, it goes to May 18. The same if I can go even to February 2020, March 2020. If I click on today, it will go all the way back to May 18. So basically the today button is working great. Okay, so we still have a problem here. And the problem is that when we close our application, the data is not being stored. So the data is being destroyed. For example, if I go and say on May 3rd, I'm gonna write I am May 3rd. Okay, I click on save. If I go to another day, I go back to 3rd, then it says I am May 3rd. But if I close the app like this, okay, let me close all the apps actually, and if I open the app again, calendar, and I go to May 3rd, then the information is lost. Okay, of course we don't want that. We want that information, that our information is preserved. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, basically there are lots of ways of doing this. We can use shared preference, we can use a file to store the data, we can do lots of things that Android enables us. So first of all, we have to know what do we want to store, what do we want to save, which objects do we want to store. Well, we want to store the objects that contain the useful information. In this case, calendar strings and also days, months, and years. So how do we do this? Well, basically, a way of doing this is writing to a file. So I think we can do this by writing the contents to our file. Okay, so what we will do is maybe we will create a method that will say save our stuff, right? So we're gonna go outside the onCreate method, which is the only method we have for now, and I'm gonna type private void save info. Okay, and this method, I have to call this method from somewhere, right? So what would be a good place to call this method from? Well, maybe from the onPause method. Will that be a good place? Well, maybe. Let's test. We can then change. So before the save info, we're gonna write override protected void onPause. Okay, we'll open this and we'll write super.onPause, right? And after we call this super method, we're gonna call the save info method. So every time our activity is saved, is paused, we will save the information. Okay, so right now let's try to start by saving the array list. How do we do that? Well, if we don't want to use or to set up the permissions and all of that, what we want to do is create a file inside the kind of our application files directory, kind of something private to our application. So how do we do that? Well, we first gonna type file, and don't forget to import the file class, and I'll call this file. Okay, and to create a new file, we will just gonna say new file, and as parameters I'll say these that get files there. So get files directory, so that is the directory of our file, and here we have to specify the file name. For example, I want to set it like, I want to call it the same name as our array list, which in this case is called calendar strings. Okay, so the file name will be also calendar strings. Okay, so we want to save this. So now that we have the file, we have to use a way in which we can write the stuff that we have on our array list. So we can use an output stream, we can use a file output stream, but we will test which of those alternatives works better for us, right? So how do we do that? Okay, well, basically we can start by experimenting with a file output stream, right? So you're gonna say file output stream, and I will call this out, just out, right? Okay, and what I'll do here, I will open a try block in order for me to be able to catch any file related exception, right? Then I'm gonna say catch, and here I'm gonna say e.print stack trace in the case we find something, right? And now inside these I'm gonna say out, and I'll set these to open file output. Okay, and as the first parameter we will pass the file name. In this case is calendar strings, right? So how do we do this? So maybe we want to define the file name a bit differently. Yeah, maybe actually. Okay, let's check. Okay, how do we do this? Let me see. Okay. When we open the file output, I don't think we need to create another file, because the file output kind of has its own built-in file. Okay, so there is no problem if what we do here is just say calendar strings as name, right? So calendar strings right here, and as the second parameter we have to use context dot mode private, because this is the way we have to do this because of the Android API and because we don't want other applications to be able to access our information, right? And after this, what we're gonna do is gonna say out that right, and as you can see, we have to pass a byte array. So maybe we can get a byte array from the thing. I'm not sure though. I'm not sure. Maybe we want to do it in a line fashion, you know? Maybe try to write line by line. I think that will maybe be better. I think that will maybe be better. Okay, okay, okay. So, how can we do this? Let me check. Well, I don't think if we say calendar strings, we cannot even access them. Oh, because we're oh, we are outside it. So what we're gonna do is we will make these guys right here. We'll make these guys global variables. Okay, all of them. So we will copy these and we will transform them, all of them, to global variables. So for every one of them, for each one, we're gonna say private and then the type and the name. And here, in the case of calendar strings, we don't have to define the type again because we want to access our global variable. Okay, we will do the same with the other variables. I don't think we need these. Do we need this? Well, I don't think we need this. Okay, now we're gonna go with days. Okay, we're gonna go with months. And of course, we're gonna go with years. So all I'm doing now is I'm converting the local variables to global ones. And here I have to delete final int. Okay. Oops. So, oh, sorry. It's not number of days. I'm wrong there. It's here on days, so I can delete final int array because I want to access the global days variable. I can do the same with months, and I can also do the same with years. Now, I want to make these global variables private because that's a good practice, right? So I'm gonna say, I'm just gonna type private at the beginning of each line of these variables. And this is how we transformed our local variables into global variables. Now, what we can do is inside the save info, we can actually access our calendar strings and we can say something like to array, to string. I don't think so. To array that no, this is not a good idea. What we have to do is we have to get every kind of string, and we will want to write that as a line into our file. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so what we can do here is maybe we can use a file writer instead of a file output stream. So let's check if we can do that. Okay, so file writer, can we do that? I think we can. Okay, so let's use a file writer instead. So file writer, and I'll delete this. So file writer will be, we will call this file writer. Okay, and I'll set this to new file writer, and I'll set this name to calendar strings, okay, because that's the file name. Okay, and here we have sort of wording that says we haven't handled the exceptions, so I'm gonna say surround with try and catch. And here we go, here we have our file writer right here. And what we're gonna do here is we want to get every line of our array list, and we want to write it to the file writer. So we can do this in the for loop, right? So we're gonna say for int I equals 0, okay. Int I equals 0, I less than size, so our calendar string count, in other words. So we're gonna say int calendar strings count, and I'll set this to calendar strings that size. That's how we get the count, right? We're gonna say while I is less than calendar string count. Of course, we can make these final because we don't want to be modified. We don't want these to be modified, okay? So we're gonna say I plus plus, and this is our for loop. Now inside the for loop, we want to say get the current line and write that. So I'm gonna say file writer dot write, and as you can see, we have to pass a string right here. So I'm gonna say calendar strings that get I, and this is how we write this. And after this for loop, we have to close the file writer by saying writer, actually file writer, which is the name, that close. Okay. Okay. I hope this works. I really hope this works. I don't think this needs a sort of permission. I hope it doesn't, but maybe it does. So what we will do here is we will check if it saves the file or something, or at least if it doesn't have an error message. Okay, so now I'm running the app and I'm here, and I will click in 18 and I'll write something. I'll click on save, I'll click on 24, I'll write something, I'll click on save, and now I'll pause the activity, and I'll go and check the logs to see if it produced some sort of error. Okay, and so we have lots of errors actually, but this is not relevant, I think. So let me clear this a bit, go back to these, and here what I'll do is I'll pause, and here hopefully these are the errors we're looking for. Okay, so let's see what we're having to deal with here. So it starts with wake lock is already released. I don't think this is our application. This is something from the Android operating system. Apparently the errors are not related to us, apparently. Okay, I think the errors are not related to us. Okay, so we will assume for a moment that this works, right? So that the information has been saved, but now we have to read a file. Can we use file writer to read? That's a good question. So I'm gonna say file writer dot read. No, because it's just writer, just write. Do we have something like file reader? I don't know. So file reader. Yeah, apparently we have. So let's try to use it in the same way. Now, what we're gonna do, we will create another method just below this, and we'll call it private void set info or read info. Yeah, read info. Okay. So I'll set read info. This is a method. I will open brackets. And what I'll do here is basically I will copy these, the same I did previously. But now what I want to do is instead of file writer, this will be a file reader. Okay. And basically we will change every time it says writer with reader. Okay, and we'll also rename these to file writer, from file writer to file reader, as you can see right here. And instead of write, I'll say read. Read. Okay, okay, okay. Uh-oh. So how do we do this? So this stores something right here. File reader. Okay. So apparently the reader works a bit different than their file writer. So how do we do that? Okay, so how do we do that? Well, basically, we have to figure out how this works. Okay, so file reader, read. When we said read, we have to know how this works. Okay, so when we say read, it returns this sd.read, which is a string decoder that read, which is kind of strange to me. But here, okay, we have to do this in a different kind of way. So maybe we can use something different right here. Instead of a file reader, we can maybe use a buffered reader. I think that would be better. So yeah, that's a better idea. I thought this would be simpler, but it's not. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna say buffered reader. Okay, and I'll set this to, I'll call this reader, reader, and I'll set this to new buffered reader. And what I'll pass here is that I have to pass a file reader. So I can say new file reader. Okay, and as the first parameter, I have to pass the file name. In this case, calendar strings. Okay, so that's the first parameter. Do we need another one? I don't think we need another parameter. Okay, so that's it for now. And what we will do here, it says that the exception is not catched, so we catch the exception. And okay, after we create the reader, we have to do the following. We're gonna create a while loop. So I'm gonna say while, and we have to, so let's create a string right here which will represent the line. So string line, and we will set this to null. Okay, so we're gonna say while, we will open another parenthesis. I'm gonna say line equals reader dot read line, while this is different than null. Okay, we will add the line, right? So it says unhandled exception. I'll say add catch clauses, and that's it. Okay, So basically, while the line we're reading is different than null, so means that we still have lines to read, gonna say calendar strings that add line. Okay, so basically now we're retrieving the information right here. After we've done this, so after the while loop, we have to close the reader. So we're gonna say reader dot close. Okay, so that's how we close the reader. Okay, so basically this would be restoring the information, right? So we have to call this from the onCreate method, right? Just right here after we did this, we're gonna say read info, okay? Because we want to restore the information. Now, when we read the information, we have to be sure that it will be working, okay? Now let's run the application just to check that it doesn't have any sort of errors. So here is the application. Now click and I'll write something and I'll click on save and I'll write something else and I'll click on save. Now I will pause the application, I will resume it, and as you can see we don't have any crash. So apparently, if I don't know if it's working, but at least it is not making our app to crash. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoy it. In the next video we will be fixing all of this and we will be finishing our calendar application. Thanks for watching and I see you in the next one. Bye.